Although expected, it is still unfortunate to see more Oklahoma State Cowboys enter the transfer portal, including quarterback Zane Flores. And when a Stillwater, Oklahoma native leaves Oklahoma State for an SEC school, it's hard for it not to feel at least a little bit personal.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, all of our Big 12 brethren? Shout out to the regulators. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on the X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. We get to slide right into this conversation of the portal losses. Yes, they're going to continuously kind of creep in, but we also need to take a peek back at some of the ones that are likely to be problematic, or at least that hurt the heart a little bit, right? Noah McKinney, given, the answer we all were looking for in the middle of the season about how he was part of the Cowboy culture that was rallying behind the locker room and all that, and then to see him transfer and go to a TCU, it hurts the heart a little bit. Now, Stillwater, Oklahoma native Josh Ford is leaving Oklahoma State for Alabama. Congratulations to Alabama. As much as we'd like to throw some shade towards the SEC way, you're getting a good dude, good product who loves the tenacity aspect of the game. He's going to block his flipping tail off. He can athletically do some things that's going to help you with, your production. And for Oklahoma State fans, yeah, it's hard not to take it personal because he's from Stillwater, Oklahoma, and he is going to an SEC school. But this is a byproduct of underutilization, in my opinion. We didn't utilize the tight end position enough. And coming into the season, it was very exciting that we had 7-8 tight ends, and it seemed like that was going to be a focal point for the offense to help with that safety valve for Hosseini or Zane Flores. But for whatever reason, it didn't quite work out. Then we had some injuries pop up, and now we get to see Stillwater's Josh Ford head on over to Alabama, and we're going to be cheering him on, right? Just like it kind of stinks to see Shamar Rigby enter the transfer portal. Now Zane Flores is entering in the transfer portal. And you know what? As Josh Ford is a beast, right? So for Alabama fans out there, this is a young man that goes far beyond just what the statistics might indicate. He will mix it up. He's your traditional Oklahoma kind of farm dude that you want to mix it up, that has that mentality of an offensive lineman, or that grittiness, that attitude, that mean streak. He's got all of that. And thankfully, he's barely scratching the surface of what he could be because we didn't get to utilize him enough at Oklahoma State, right? We didn't get to emphasize the tight end position to put him in a position to be successful. So as much as it does hurt the heart, we also got to understand that when you look at North Texas's offense, they do use the tight end, but it's not like a focal point of the offense. Whereas Alabama, Georgia, those are places that seemingly have utilized the tight ends more than anybody else. There's a lot of schools, even in the Big 12, that utilize the tight end, which was why you saw guys like Trigg over at Baylor, get put on the pedestal that they deserve to be on. We didn't get to reap those benefits. Now Alabama does get to reap those benefits, just like somebody's going to get to reap the benefits of Zane Flores. Zane Flores officially is in the transfer portal after a 1,454-yard season at 5.6 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, 7 picks, 104 passer rating, completed 155 of 262. It wasn't all bad with Zane. I think a lot of us can look back with the understanding that he had a lot of limitations that weren't exactly always even on him coming into the season, right? The offensive line was a crapshoot, and as we look back now, we paid the wrong dudes to be on the offensive line because the O-line got significantly better as more and more backups started getting pushed up to the front of the depth chart. So there's a lot to be said about why Cooper Bassett maybe should have gotten an opportunity, and a lot of that is via that development. But at the same point in time, the quarterback position was put in a precarious spot because of the limitations of the offensive line. Zane Flores is no different. which is probably why we saw the bulk of Zane Flores' development in the last few weeks of the season. The continuity in the offensive line to end the year could be a direct correlation for why Zane Flores was getting better. So if he gets put in a spot where he's got a legitimate offensive line and he's not asked to do too much, right? He doesn't need to throw a cape on and be a hero. If he's able to just be himself and play within himself and have a good offensive line, we don't know how good Zane Flores could be. And it goes back to the development of the quarterback position. We never even developed Spencer Sanders, right? So the last quarterback that had any development that was visible was Taylor Cornelius. Getting under a different quarterback coach could be something that Zane Flores finds himself flourishing in. Maybe it was the fit at Oklahoma State. Maybe it was a system. Maybe it was Mike Gundy. Who knows, right? There's a ton of things you could throw at why we weren't successful, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that Zane cannot find a place to be successful. Yeah, I mean, it does hurt that Shamar Rigby has entered into the transfer portal. The Purdue wide receiver, had almost 400 yards this season, and he seemed to be the leading candidate to step up in a big way if he were to, stay with Oklahoma State moving forward. Very surprised to see Gage Stanland's name. I know that the staff likely would like to keep a hold of this big body young offensive lineman, but things happen. Obviously, Cam Abshire's in the portal now. Shantavian Bradley, 1 year wonder, and it's ridiculous to see some of these dudes that had a lot of high hopes that likely were in the upper echelon of the Oklahoma State NIL rev share era that didn't get to participate, and they're leaving. Another tight end, Grayson Brousseau. We already kind of mentioned Trey Griffiths and how we never got to see him. Talon Shetron leaving is terrible. Jared Henry is another one of those offensive linemen that we just didn't get to see enough of. We didn't get to see what they could potentially turn into. Cam Epps still a big surprise. Noah McKinney, TCU is not fun. Shea Frybaum, Texas A&M, not great. But it is that time of year, and it's going to continuously happen. North Texas is going through a much different situation than Oklahoma State, right? They probably have a lot of faith in Neil Brown, but most of the attrition that they're going through is likely because a good chunk of them are coming to Oklahoma State. So we're in a little bit of a different position. Nonetheless, 95% of these dudes, maybe 90% of these guys were told that there's not really going to be a piece for you at Oklahoma State moving forward. So therefore, you should probably put yourself in the best opportunity moving forward. But there are going to be some of them that are being told, hey, we really think you should come back. If you have to go explore, we completely understand. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these guys, even the ones that have not jumped into the portal, you're seeing that they're hiring a lot of the agency stuff, and a lot of the behind the scenes work is already taking place. We're probably stressing. We're probably stressing with some of these names, and it's going to happen. But at the same point in time, Eric Morris done a pretty good job putting a product on the field that everywhere he's gone that everybody could be proud of. So if some of these guys are being cut loose, perhaps they're being told something or they're seeing something on film, or the price tag is just a little bit too high. That's another thing I wanted to throw in here. We know that this staff under Raj Murdy is not going to overpay all that often. Sure, there's going to be outliers. There's going to be occasions where you need to step up to the plate and do crazy things, like for a Drew Mestamaker or Wendell Gregory or Caleb Hawkins or Rodney Fields. We get those outliers. But all in all, we're not going to overpay. We're not going to overspend. So some of these dudes that were making top dollar or were supposed to make top dollar, they probably have to be willing to take a shaving of financial compensation, and maybe they just don't want to do that in Stillwater America, and that's okay. What's not okay is getting with Omaha Steaks for this gift giving season, because the holidays are here. Whether you're hosting a family or you're planning the perfect gift, just keep it in mind that Omaha Steaks are simple and delicious. They make it easier than ever. From effortless holiday entertaining to unforgettable gifts, Omaha Steaks deliver world's best steak experience straight from your door. And what makes it even better, with Omaha Steaks, you can know exactly what you're getting. USDA certified tender steaks, premium proteins, gourmet sides, and decadent desserts to make everyone feel appreciated. You're going to love how easy it is to gift. Shows up frozen, packaged beautifully, ready to rock and roll. Steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. It's restaurant level, at home, all the time. They have so many options: steak, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, desserts, something for every kind of holiday gathering. It's become one of my favorite last-minute gifts because it feels so thoughtful without having all of the stress. Save big on gourmet gifts and holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com, and for an extra $35 off, use the code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Make sure you head on over to omahasteaks.com. Use that promo code COLLEGE to get the best for your family or yourself this gift-giving season. The new coaching staff is finally starting to roll in under new head coach Eric Morris. And yes, a former Oklahoma Sooner is in the bunch. And I've seen some wild stuff online. But at the end of the day, right, it's about connections. It's about recruiting. It's about familiarity. We do know that Skylar Cassidy was named the defensive coordinator, and he is going to bring in a couple of familiar faces with him. One of those being Jordan Malone. Jordan Malone's going to come be the defensive backs coach. They worked together previously at multiple stops. And recently, Coach Jordan Malone come from North Texas. Before that, Washington State. He was the defensive passing game coordinator for Washington State. Prior to that, he was at Minnesota State, Augustana, Washington Park High School, Emporia State. He's been in the industry for almost 20 years, and he comes with a lot of cachet, a lot of trust. He was part of that Sam Houston staff that, had a lot of that carryover for Coach Cassidy going into the North Texas. And realistically, I saw a stat a little bit earlier. His first year, Coach Jordan Malone at North Texas, they were top 10 in some defensive back classification, which hadn't happened at North Texas ever or something to that effect. So Jordan Malone definitely is going to be a very, very welcomed addition. But it's not just the coaches. We're going to do a little bit of bouncing here. We also get to bring in an executive director of player personnel, Ethan Russo. If you go check out some of the Wisconsin your message boards and things of that nature, they do feel like this is a little bit of a loss because they recently went through, this, which is why they got Russo, and it was supposed to be an upgrade to kind of keep things rocking and rolling. And he has a lot of roles when it comes to breaking down film and diagnosing the talent and, making determinations on where the recruiting pool should be shifted towards. He's going to be doing a lot of that. He's a TCU grad in 2015. From TCU, he went on to work for the Cleveland Browns as a game charter. Then he was an intern for operations management in the Indianapolis Colts organization. Then he was with Rice as a player personnel and recruiting analyst. Then he was at Utah. He was a Ute in that player personnel department before going to UNLV as the director of player personnel. Then in 2023, he goes to North Texas as the assistant director of player personnel. 2024 upgraded to a director of player personnel. Obviously, this last season goes to Wisconsin to be the exact same thing. And again, I implore some of you to go check out some of the Wisconsin message boards and some of the articles that were written about him and how he was going to keep everything, going in the right direction moving forward, whether it be recruiting or whether it be the coaching and the alignment of how everything is going to be orchestrated. They were having a lot of faith in what Ethan Russo could potentially bring to them at Wisconsin. So all indications seem to be these are very good additions to the Oklahoma State staff. And it's going to be, interesting to see how many of these North Texas staff members we end up stealing, because we're not done there. On top of Coach Malone, the defensive backs, and Russo helping in player development, Coach Skylar Cassidy has also decided to bring on a linebackers coach, Reggie Johnson. Reggie Johnson has a deep history going back to Louisville. And then from 98 to 2001, he did a little bit of bouncing around before going to UTEP, then back to Louisville as a defensive lines coach. Then in 2004 to 07, he was a linebackers coach at Louisville. Then from 08 to 2011, he was a linebackers coach at Arkansas. Then he was the defensive coordinator, linebackers coach at UAB, Western Kentucky. He went back to the defensive ends, Purdue, stayed on the defensive line. Missouri State went back to linebackers. Then he got upgraded at Missouri State to co-defense coordinator. Then he goes to coach the linebackers at Sam Houston. They have a ton of success. A lot of those guys transition over to North Texas, where obviously we're able to steal him from. And he was working with inside linebackers. North Texas is going to be working with holistically, seemingly both at Oklahoma State. And then the former Oklahoma Sooner, Julian Wilson. His coaching history is pretty short, right? He hasn't been in the game all that long. He was a grad assistant at Texas Tech after graduating from OU after a very historic career. Abilene Christian defensive backs coach, then Sam Houston DBs coach, North Texas DBs coach, Oklahoma State DBs coach. And again, if you look in some of the conversations that have been had about Julian Wilson, even if you go back and see some of the things that Bob Stoops has said, his ascension has been pretty quick. It's been pretty rapid, but he does already carry a very good name when it comes to recruiting. So if you combine Wilson and Malone and the recruiting ties that those guys have with the familiarity they already have with Coach Skylar Cassidy, this cohesiveness unit could be an absolute problem for opposing offenses in the Big 12. And additionally, I think when you have that kind of continuity, it's easy to sales pitch some of your North Texas guys to come with you. It's a little easier to talk about what Oklahoma State could give you if you were a recruit that already liked North Texas, right? But at the same token, you also have to absolutely love the fact that Coach Eric Morris is willing to take some chances, and that in-state tie, if Coach Eric Morris wants to dominate in-state recruiting, getting somebody like Coach Julian Wilson would definitely be beneficial. Yeah, and extending in the state of Texas from somebody who has a very good up-and-coming name, who has a good relationship with younger dudes. He has a very good in-depth reach when it comes to 7-on-7 and combines and one-on-one events, things of that nature. So I do think that these are hires that not only help with the consistency that Coach Morris is trying to stick with moving to Stillwater, but I also think that there's a lot of faith in the recruiting abilities of these young men. If you give major resources to a lot of these guys that may have loved North Texas the whole time, they may have loved the staff the whole time, those are the dudes that are now going to circle back around. So this coaching staff that we're bringing in, I think it's also going to be huge in the transfer portal for us in acquisition, right? So seeing some of these names jump in the portal, even Oklahoma State, yes, it's not fun. Yes, it hurts the heart. But when you see some of these hires being named, it lets you know that they've probably already got guys that are designated as top targets. And some of those individuals fell in love with the coaches, just felt like other places had more to offer at the time than North Texas. Oklahoma State resolves a lot of that. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see how it goes because they're still waiting on a lot of their guys to play their bowl game. So the more North Texas coaches that you see bring in, especially guys that go back years together, including at Sam Houston State, you have to feel good about the staff's ability to get a lot of these guys to campus. So our transfer portal doesn't have to be 60 new dudes, at least not new to them. Game time tickets is the bee's knees for all of your ticketing needs, and the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since '94. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be absolutely massive. But we all know sometimes getting tickets is way more difficult than the game or the match that you're about to watch. That's why the Game Time app is so clutch. It's finally giving fans the real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to just scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. You pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. The seat view is an absolute game changer. You literally know what you're getting into before you get into your seat. Prices include fees up front, so there's no last-second surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork right now out of you buying World Cup tickets. With every match, concert, event, music, theater, doesn't matter. Game Time has you squared away. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDON college, all one word, for $20 off. Get with Game Time tickets today. All right, last but not least, the Cowgirls got to get back on track, had a nice win over Tulsa. However, the Bedlam losses, they definitely killed momentum, right? I'm not the only one that felt it. It did kind of feel like this whole thing was building, and Steve Lutz was building, and JC Hoyt were building, and that is still happening. And, good job on the Cowgirls for responding and getting a nice win over Tulsa today. But it just, the reason it stinks is because there's a lot of people that have not experienced the Gallagher experience, and we're right on the precipice of being ranked, right? Undefeated, number 27 in the AP, number 28 in the coaches. All you had to do was beat OU, who's a pretty good ball club, who 2 of their 3 losses coming in were to number 8 Gonzaga, number 22 Nebraska, who's also undefeated. They were right next to Oklahoma State coming in as another one of these undefeated teams. So OU's losses were pretty good. So it wasn't going to be easy, but never one time did I foresee us losing that ball game. And the worst part, though, is seeing all the social media stuff, which I dang sure don't agree with. But there's a lot of that, we're back to the same old crap, and we're not going to be good again, and we have nothing to look forward to except for baseball and this and that and the other, and this team is cooked, and the first time we play a real squad, which is ridiculous. We got to get better. Hopefully that was like an eye-opening experience for the guys. Offensively, we can shoot with anybody. We can run up and down the court with anybody. But defensively, we're just not very good. And it's hard to have that much talent, that much athleticism, that much depth, and to know that the NIL has gotten significantly better for the basketball players in the last 2 years. To know all of that, and then to also take into consideration that some of these dudes don't give 13 craps if they go play defense or not at times, right? That's problematic, right? So, and that's what all this is for. We may end up in a position where Steve Lutz has guys that, maybe aren't making a whole lot of NIL, but they're in the right place and they're doing the right thing 24/7. I don't think Steve Lutz is going to play those, he's getting paid more, so he needs to play more all the time kind of thing. I think he's going to give a lot of opportunities, but we've just got to get better at defending the 3-point line defensively. And it really stinks for JC Hoyt and the Cowgirls, right? Because we did have that loss to St. John's earlier in the season, and that gave the blueprint on how other teams can stop us. Obviously, the Lady Sooners were a top 10 team for a reason, but the disparity between Oklahoma State and the Lady Sooners was so massive that it was concerning, because you're going to run into teams like that in the tournament. And if there's that big of a disparity already, that's really the first crack in the armor. If we can't hit 3-pointers, right, what's the rest of the season going to look like? Because every team in the country that plays us from here on out, their only objective should be is to run us off the 3-point line. Like, let the Cowgirls beat you down low, right? Let us do it, because that's 2 out of 3 teams that have done it, and it was a recipe for disaster for the Cowgirls. So thankfully they were able to get back on track. I have no doubt the Cowboys, are still a really good ball club. This is still a team that could finish right. I'm going to stay in that 6th-ish range of the Big 12. This is still a team that could win a game in the NCAA tournament. But it's a lot of talent. It's a lot of offensive firepower. But our inability or unwillingness to guard the 3-point line, it's part of why some of the momentum died. But I really felt like if we would have secured that day, if we'd have beat both, right, Lady Sooners and the dudes, I would imagine the Gallagher would be rocking earlier than anticipated. But it is what it is. The Oklahoma State basketball crowd hasn't had a lot to get excited about. And some of the times that we did get excited, Travis Ford, Mike Boynton would crush our hearts inside Gallagher. So there is a reluctancy to put 13,000 in there. And losing the way that we did in both of those Bedlam games definitely isn't going to help. So it stinks. I hate it for the Oklahoma State basketball team. I hate it for Steve Lutz, right? Because it's part of what he's selling is what Gallagher could be. But if you're building that momentum, right, there's got to be capitalization moments. And I mean, we're obviously getting closer. We're just not quite there yet, which is okay. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. Thank you guys very much for rocking and rolling with me. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate what you do. Go do what you do. Hit the stars, leave the reviews. All righty, y'all. That's what it is. Later, my taters.